Welcome back. This is Michelle Hughes at Ageless and Timeless. We today are very, very fortunate to have a guest who is in the arts. And so far, we haven't done any shows that are on the right brain side with artistic people. So I invited Jordan Preston to join us. And just a little background about Jordan. He is both a musician, well, he's actually three things: a musician, an actor at SAG-AFTRA, and also a sculptor. And as an actor, he's played mostly the Marvel type action movies, and he'll tell you a little bit more about that. As a musician, he seems to be kind of interestingly more attuned to the more traditional music, such as Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, Tony Bennett. And we have a little surprise today because he said, with my request, of course, that he would sing a couple of songs. So be prepared. But here's a little clip on Jordan to introduce him.
Kick up your next event with the retro-style music of Jordan Preston and his band.
Someday, when I'm awfully low.
As a Retro 1260 listener, you'll love the high energy and smooth stylings of this popular entertainer who's been enchanting audiences and gaining quite a buzz with his performances at special events and private parties. From Sinatra to Santana and Mathis to Motown, Jordan Preston and his band perform your favorite songs from your favorite decades, with options for every budget and event. Entertain your guests with Jordan and his Vegas-style 12-piece big band, his swinging 5-piece band, the intimate and jazzy 4-piece combo, or Jordan solo with backing orchestrations. Jordan Preston, your era, your music, your memories.
Welcome, Jordan, to Ageless and Timeless. I think that you have a very interesting background that I have listened to, had a little bit of a teaser with you earlier today. So if you would take over and tell us how you got to where you are today on this wonderful journey of your life.
Hey, Michelle. It's good to be here today. Thank you so much for having me. Basically, okay, I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. And I can hear the audience saying yay right now. I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
I know Larry King would, because that's where he came from.
Brooklyn, there are a lot of people from Brooklyn, New York. Basically, I always wanted to sing and act since I was a child. And what got me into music was a very funny thing. I loved singing as a child and playing around with music. And acting was always my escape, my passion as a kid, because it was little chubby kid growing up, and so I was popular because I was funny, but I didn't have a lot of deep friends, and certainly not a lot of girlfriends as a young teen growing up. And so movies were escapism for me, and they were fun for me. So that's how I learned to basically start getting those chops going of acting, because I'd do skits with myself and all that type of thing, and I'd sing, and I loved the immediate response, immediate reaction that people would give doing that. My mom, the first audience was my mom.
Well, of course, your mom.
Yeah.
She must have been your biggest fan.
Mother, right? I think just to get me out the room. See, that was great. Go ahead, just get out of here.
Just get out of here.
Let's leave. but that was the germination of me starting to see that I liked the arts, singing. And I also was able to draw well. So when it became a time for me to go to school, and it got to college time, well, we weren't a wealthy family, so I got a tuition, a grant to go to FIT, Fashion Institute in New York.
Which is a very good school.
Yes, a very prestigious, good school.
Really?
And I went to Brooklyn Tech, which is another prestigious, good high school in New York. And I did well in drawing and arts, and my mom and dad sat me down and said, well, we don't have money to send you to college, so if they're offering you a grant and scholarship to go to FIT, if you want to go to college at all, you have to go there. So I went there, and I did that and enjoyed it. Got a degree in textile designing and things like that. But I always loved singing and acting, and that still stuck with me.
So where did you get your first break?
My first break came from when I was in New York. I was going to college, and also running back and forth to Herbert Berghoff School in the Village. And FIT was actually up on 28th Street, so I'd go back and forth and walk back and forth in between classes and go take a class at Herbert Berghoff, go back up and take my evening classes, the evening session of my classes in FIT. And I went to an audition, and a gentleman by the name of Eric Bogosian. Eric Bogosian is a very accomplished actor. He's done a lot of things. He did a movie called Talk Radio. He was in Under Siege with Steven Seagal. He was the villain. And he gave me my first break because he cast me in one of his plays. He's a great playwright, too, and he cast me in one of his plays off-Broadway.
Why do you think he chose you, Jordan?
That's a good question. I think he chose me. I think at the time I was young and had a great energy about me. A great.
Well, you're still
charisma.
very young,
Thank
and you
you.
still have a great energy.
I like her. Your check's in the mail, Michelle. I love that. I love that. I'm sending it out to you right now as we speak. That's very great.
I better tell you how much, though.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you take Groupon, because I don't have any cash on me right now. But yeah. So, but I think that's what he saw. He just saw maybe this guy is a little hungry, and this guy is ready to get out there, and he was very much responsible for my first.
And what was the name of that?
Sheer Heaven. It's called Sheer Heaven.
You still have that tape?
No, I don't. It was never taped for me, because at the time I didn't have anything on tape, and at the time I'm dating myself. They didn't have things like cell phones and stuff like that. So,
so you're not as young as you said.
I'm not as young as I say. No, they didn't have cell phones at the time. I think they had those old wind-up, but they didn't have those. But I didn't have any tape on myself on that time. But that was great, and that gave me the fire to think maybe I do have a chance to do some stuff. You know,
So Jordan, what do you think it takes to be a great artist?
That's a good question. To be a great artist, well, but you and I discussed this a little bit earlier, and being great, you never stop learning. You never stop. I think being great is subjective, because somebody can call you great, and the next person over here can say, I don't like him. And I think every artist you can think of in your life, any artist that's your favorite, any artist that you enjoy, or that somebody else or is world famous, you can find 10 people that love him, and you'll find 5 on another side that say, he doesn't do it for me. I don't like the way he looks. I don't like the way he sounds. I don't like the way he acts. I don't like his weight. You'll find somebody as a detractor. So greatness is all relative and subjective to me. But you never stop learning. I think you always have to grow. You always have to keep your passion alive, and then you have to be able to be relatable to the audience. I think that's a big thing to greatness. No matter what talent you have, it has to be something that people can get behind. The majority of people can get behind, and they love what you do, and it touches them. It impacts them.
So is there any particular role that you always get either into the finals or cast for? Is there some particular style that you...
Like a typecast?
Typecast,
What type do I use?
Right. What type are you, Jordan?
It's funny. I usually have played... my number one go-to on television when I book roles is detective. I usually get the detective.
Why do you think that is?
I think because my natural essence, before you get to know me, if you just see me from across the room, I walk into a room, my natural essence is one of a kind of an authoritative role, a guy who doesn't tolerate a lot of stuff. So I get those type of roles. So it's a judge, or a lawyer, or a detective. But usually the kind of detective that's like the lead of the case or the head of the case, you know.
So you're usually the good guy.
I'm usually that's a good question. I'm usually the good guy with the edge. So I'm usually the good guy that you know is doing the right thing, but you don't want to push him, or he's got a little bit of dirt. He'll bend the rules to get to the truth of the matter.
And I think if I remember looking at the roles that you've played, that you also have a way with the women.
Well, no, that's off camera.
Well, how about off and on?
Yeah, off and on. Right? I've gotten into trouble about it. No, that's it. No, my main. Thank you. That's so nice of you, Michelle. But my main bread and butter now with acting is a character actor. I've matured into a character actor, and I'm not classically looking like a George Clooney or those guys. And so Idris Elba, those type of guys. So I fall more into the... It's funny. That's a good point. And we'll get into this later on about Hollywood. Out in the world, most people would consider me, good-looking guy, nice-looking guy, good-looking guy. But in Hollywood, when you go into the standards of booking and casting, I fall more into the character actor role, which can be the doctor, the lawyer, the best friend, or the thing. But the lead
Or
guy
the
would go somewhere
detective.
else, a detective, right? So I wouldn't necessarily get the girl in a television show or the movie, and if I did, it would be happenstance, but it wouldn't be the design of the show. I'd already come into the show being married or have a wife already, but I wouldn't be getting the lead girl of the show.
So which movie would you say was your very best performance? Which one do you think about when you think that I was on top of my game, and that was the best of me?
Huh. Wow. I think that movie's still being written.
Well, that's good too, because that's part of that journey you were
That's
talking
right.
about.
I really enjoyed. There's a movie I did called Shadow of the Monarch, which was a very good independent film that came out last year, and I think I did very well in that. Once again, I played I was a hitman in that one, but I was a special agent who eradicated people for the government. But that was a good role for me. I really enjoyed that role a lot.
So special agent.
Yes.
What did you solve? What made you a hero in that special agent role in that movie?
I was not a hero in that movie. I actually was one of the
you were a
premier
bad
guys. Yes.
Ah, special
And
agent bad guy.
Yes, and I was tasked to hunting down the lead protagonist, which was a female in that movie, Shadow of the Monarch, and I was not a very nice guy in that. But what made it interesting is I was charming and funny within the context of killing people, if that makes sense. But so he had his only redeeming quality is that you kind of like him, and he makes you laugh even though he's doing kind of insane things during the course of the movie.
And how did that movie do in the box office?
I don't know. It's not doing badly.
It's still out.
Yeah, it's
Still available?
It still should be available
On
yeah.
Netflix,
You should be able to find it. You might find it on Netflix. You might find it on Hulu. Is
Okay.
where I think you'd find it. Hulu
okay.
and maybe Netflix. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me, when you go into audition, and there's all these people sitting there, and you're one of a multitude
Yes.
that get a role. How do you deal with the rejection that inevitably is going to come because you're not going to score 100 every time?
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell me, how is it that you go through the process and still love yourself after being rejected for a part that you really wanted?
That's a good question. Well, first let me peel back the curtain a little bit. Rejection is 90% of what you'll get. Yeah. So in other words, if you go out for 14 roles in a week, you'll probably be rejected for 13 of those roles, and maybe the one will be a callback, which means they like you enough to bring you back in again, and you still might
You
not
still
get
get
that
rejected,
one.
right.
So you'd have to. There's a high percentage of going out on auditions. You have to go on a lot of auditions to get. It's like sales. You have to do a lot of them, and you hope to tag 2 or 3 ones that get you through to the next 2 or 3 ones. And that's how that goes. And then if you're lucky, in the star category, you hit one that's really nice, and that relays you to other people seeing you on a broad scale, and then they start hiring you. Your phone starts ringing.
Is that happening?
Not yet. The phone is ringing sporadically right now. So,
Well,
so again,
you have to start somewhere.
We have to start somewhere.
But in
The phone
sales, they
rings.
say you're only as good as your last phone call.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I think you're saying that
Thank
you're
you. My
only as
phone
good
calls
as your
come
last,
your last time. Yes, your
performance,
last performance.
and you're using that as part of your portfolio.
Right. And Hollywood is very much like the Janet Jackson song. What have you done for me lately? It's like what's your last? What did you last do that I know? Okay, that, So I am still very much an auditioning actor. I still audition for my roles, for my parts. The phone doesn't ring every minute. Go, okay, Tom Cruise just called. He wants you to be in this. It's not. I'm not at that stage
Well,
yet.
that's one
Getting
of the,
there, but not yet.
But actually, that's one of the reasons why I invited you on our show.
Yes.
Because there
Because
are
I'm cheap and she can afford me.
No.
Look at that. That's why we couldn't get Tom Cruise. That's why.
Well, no, Tom did say he'd come on
Oh,
eventually.
there you go. Well, how could he not?
But I wanted you first.
Oh, thank you very much. As it should be. That's it.
Well, because I like, and this has been part of my career too,
Yes.
and so maybe take a moment just to explain that. I love it when somebody is emerging, and I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes.
I've been one for many, many years, and in several different industries, but primarily real estate. So the arts have always been a passion of mine, but it hasn't been my my avocation rather
Yes.
than my vocation.
Yes.
However, in my business world, I've always taken tried to be a role model or taken the young person and up and comer.
Yes.
So not that's why I invited you, but I know that your career is emerging,
Yeah.
and I think this is what's going to give inspiration. What you're doing, how hard you're working, how dedicated you are, how strong you are to handle negativity, like we
Yes.
just talked about.
Yes.
That you didn't quite answer that. We got to come back
Yeah,
to that.
come back.
About what happens when you go home that day
Right.
after 19 different.
Right.
But that is part of why I wanted you to be on Ageless in Timeless, because you're relatable.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
anybody that sees a Tom Cruise, for example, can say, yeah, well, he's up there, and
Yeah.
he's not relatable to them. But
Right.
you're a human being,
Right.
and we're all.
I'm in the trenches. Yeah.
Well, part of
Yeah.
why we're doing this
Yeah.
is to all, as I said in the very beginning of my show, is we're all holding hands together to learn and grow and realize our
Yes.
fullest potential and find our bliss.
Yes.
So that is part of why you're here.
Thank you.
So go back for a moment to
Yes.
the question about rejection, because I think it's a little
Yes.
bit more psychology about how
Yeah.
you stay positive and strong, and because everybody goes through negativity and downturn and challenges. So
Yeah.
just how do you face challenges, basically the question.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for calling me a young up-and-comer. I like that verb. a young anything is really good.
That's true. Well, I feel the same way. I
thank
think
you.
that's again ageless and
That's right,
timeless.
ageless and timeless.
You fit on
Oh
this.
my goodness.
You fit in the show. You're
Thank you.
ageless and timeless.
Rejection is a hard thing, and it's very hard not to take it personal, because in acting, you're putting your wares out there to somebody, and no matter how much they say to you, and you go to any seminar or anything that casting directors will tell you, it's not you. Because the truth is, it's not you. The truth is, when you audition, they like you, so they call you in based on your picture or what they've seen you do on something. So they do like you initially. But there's a lot of other facets that happen after that. So you audition, and you can get back, the casting directors can go back in the office and compare you to what's on the paper of what they have to do, or the scene or the script. And they go, well, he's too tall. He's too tall. He's taller than the lead actor, or he's shorter than the lead woman, or he's darker than what we needed for this. We didn't realize his voice sounds different than what his picture looks like. His weight is too
There's
much.
so
His weight is too
many
thin. There's so
reasons.
many variables. The director can say, you know what, I want my cousin to play that role. I just decide anything, but we don't know that. All we know is you didn't get the job. And so it's very easy after your agent tells you that especially when you think you did good, and you really were looking forward to working with in this project, it's very easy to crumble on yourself and go, I'm no good. Should I even be an actor? Should I even be an entertainer? Did I pick the wrong field? I haven't worked in.
Is that
whatever.
after the first bottle of wine, or?
This is the good stuff. This is the positive talk. Yeah, it gets rough. It gets rough sometimes. But yeah, you have to, and what you have to do to keep in place with that is one thing, you have to have a good support system. So if you have a good agent or manager, if you're at that level, we have an agent or manager. I have an agent and a manager, and they support you. You'll get the next one, or it's not about you. Don't worry about it. You did good. And or if friends, if you have no agent, manager, good support group of friends, or your wife, or your husband, or your partner, to say, you did great. You did wonderful. You'll get the next one. And then the take care of yourself would be to do things like exercise regularly, meditate, eat well,
Sleep well.
Sleep well, have positive influences. YouTube is a great place to go for motivational clips that'll tell you all. They got a whole section on YouTube about handling rejection or keep going forward.
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins.
I go to
you
him a
name
lot.
it. Joel Osteen. Anybody you can think of, but whatever your proclivity is, they got a whole thing on YouTube. You can find that little niche about handling rejection or keeping yourself afloat or staying strong. And those things help you.
Can I ask you a personal question? Have you ever had to go to a psychiatrist or psychologist to help you?
I took therapy, not because of any rejection type of thing, but I've taken therapy in my life because it was just suggested to me that it's a good sounding board to have somebody mirror you and say, okay, this is what I feel. Sometimes you can do that with friends, but sometimes friends and people in your life, even though they mean well, they can be a little judgy, or you don't feel that comfortable telling them everything in your life, depending on what your friends are. It's little dark corners, little gray corners, little insecure corners you don't feel comfortable sharing with another person that you know knows you, because you don't want them knowing that about you, or you don't want to expose that, you don't want to discuss that. A therapist is kind of impartial, and you can tell them pretty much anything, and you get a chance to unburden yourself. You get a chance to hear a reflection back or some coaching back on how to handle a situation. And just like anything else, you take it with a grain of salt. Take what you need and leave the rest. Or you don't have to do it every day for the rest of your life, every week for the rest of your life. You take it for as long as you need it. When you feel you're buoyant, or you can self-sufficiently handle, support yourself physically and mentally and spiritually, then you can lessen it or leave it alone. But I think everybody should dabble in therapy at some point or another. It's a good sounding
or at
board.
least, as you say, meditation and introspection.
Yes.
Even if you're not attuned to seeing a medical person regarding your inner thinking and in challenges, at least go inward for yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of people don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
They don't know how to go and look inward. Like, for example, when things happen, they blame it on externals.
Yeah.
But every time something happens, it's a challenge. You have to say, what did I do to bring that,
Yes.
to cause that?
Yes.
And if you did that, then you're asking yourself, where is my responsibility and where is my accountability?
I agree.
And so, now your friends are being really good friends,
Right.
and your manager and stuff. But remember, that manager wants to keep you going.
Right.
So of course he has to be a cheerleader.
Right.
But it's really up to you to say, okay, what can I do better
Right.
the next time?
Right.
Not that it was all about me. It was probably 90% circumstances, but there is something in there that relates to who you are.
Oh yeah.
But so much of it, as you said, is contextual.
Yes. Yes. And you also have to look at things like as you're talking about who you are, and you're talking ontologically who you are as a person. You have to, as you reflect, you have to look at, who was I going into that room? Did I just have a fight with my spouse before I got there? Was I frustrated because of traffic, and I brought that into the audition room subconsciously? You don't even realize it. You're still going with a smile on your face,
Right.
but subconsciously you're carrying that baggage from the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes before you got in there,
Right.
prep time.
That's why
So
it's
you
good
have
to
to
get
look at
there
that.
early
It's good
and
to
do some heavy
relax yourself,
breathing.
heavy breathing, maybe even a little light meditation.
Yeah.
Make sure you have your lines down, whatever it is. But in any aspect of life, I think it's good to look at, who am I being? What am I bringing into this room? What am I bringing into this situation right now? How am I being at effect of and impacting what's going on right now, whether it be a board meeting or a sales meeting, a phone call, a conference call, an audition, whatever it is, even a live stage performance. You have to look at who you be, because sometimes you get that reflection right back.
You know what always fascinates me with actors is, how do you remember all those lines? And it's totally a challenge,
Yeah.
I would think. Do you have a super memory for words and lines, or is there a trick to memorizing?
The best trick is just to keep doing it over and over. You have to do them. They say you have to do at least 100 times each segment. If you have, and the longer the soap opera people, they change it on the fly. Okay, cut. We're gonna change this page 27. We're taking out. We're gonna put this in here. Say these lines, that, and it's amazingly quick. And so even though a lot of soap operas get flack because they're so everyday-ish in our life, those guys, they really deserve a tip of the hat, because they have to turn on a wheel. Whereas on television and movies, 9 times out of 10, the script stays the script. Once you've memorized, once you shot it, when you get ready to shoot it, that's pretty much what you've rehearsed. There's not a lot of variance there. But you just have to keep rehearsing, running lines with your friends. So you run lines all day, all night, till ad nauseum, like at least 100 times per section of words. Each word's 100 times here, 100 times here, 100 times here. And then not only do you have to remember the words, you have to infuse yourself into it. So it has to sound like I'm talking to you. It has to sound like it's coming out of my head. It can't sound like I'm reading. And now I go down to the store, because that's memorizing something you read, but now you have to infuse something into it. So it's, now I'm going down to the store, so it sounds like something coming out of you naturally.
So like I said, relatable.
It's relatable.
That's a really important word, I think, for you, for your profession.
Yes.
Is people want to feel that they can relate to you
Yes.
as a person, you are an actor.
Yes.
So when do you take off the hat? And you're not the actor and you're the human being again. How do you go through that transition of roles? Because you have to be somebody else a lot of the time to be a good actor. So how do you do that transition?
Well, I got a double-edged sword, a blessing and a curse. One is that being a character actor, like somebody, I know you, I saw you in that movie. What's your name? And not being it's Tom Cruise, it's Tom Cruise, it's Tom Hanks. You get a chance to get back into the world a little easier, because you do your job. The industry knows who you are. The industry knows your name. But you out in the world, people come up and say, "I thank you for that. I love you for that." But your whole life isn't under a microscope, and it's easy for you to walk into a Rite Aid and go, "Can I have that oil, please? Can I have that?"
And you're just Jordan Preston.
Right, you're just Jordan
Preston. They don't know you, and you're not asking, hounding for autographs.
Right, it grounds you. You get grounded pretty fast once you get off the set. Once you leave the studio lot, you're grounded pretty quickly. So that's a blessing.
So what actors are your role models? Actors or actresses?
Well, technique-wise, like when I look at them and I go, "Oh my God, that brings people like Meryl Streep, of course, and there's just a bunch of my heroes are Denzel Washington. I love Denzel Washington, and as much as I dropped his name today, Tom Cruise is always one. Tom Cruise is so special. He's one of the only bona fide remaining movie stars. There are a lot of named people out there, but they might have had only like 2 or 3 movies recently that make them a star, that are popular. Or there are a lot of movie stars who have their names out there, but their last big hit movie was 15 years ago, but they're just such a big name that it always stays a big name. But Tom Cruise is a consistently working actor for like the last 30-something years with a big movie that just made a lot of money last year. So and when he does a movie, you always know whether the movie works or not for you. You always know you're getting his best. You're getting 100% of him in that movie. He's going to bring his full game. And I love that, his intensity. I love that about Tom Cruise. I have people in show business that I call my kings, because not only are they very good at what they do, and they've made it to a certain degree of success, but who they are out in the world, what they want to share out in the world is about something else besides just being famous, and they know how to talk to people. They're relatable. People like Jay Leno, people like Will Smith, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Anthony Robbins, because when you hear them talk, they're about impacting more than just, "I just did this last movie," and they're very charismatic, very relatable to the Joe and Jane public, and I like that about them. So those type of people really influence me a lot.
I particularly like Will Smith. I'm a little partial because he rented my homes several times in Hawaii and in Aspen, Colorado, the times when I was doing vacation hospitality. And I will tell you, he is one of the most relatable people. He has no airs, and he is totally grounded, and he has beautiful children, beautiful wife. And he's just a real human being, and he really cares about what he does. So
a little side story: when I first came out to Los Angeles, I was working at a department store. I was a sales rep at a department store, and in Beverly Hills, at the Beverly Center. And Will Smith came in to the men's department where I was working and was buying some T-shirts. And he was such a nice guy. He was just a very nice, relatable guy. He didn't have airs, and he talked to me and joked around with me like we knew each other, like just two guys hanging out at a bus stop. And he was already Will Smith at this point. It wasn't like he was one day going to be Will Smith. He was already on Fresh Prince, I think, at that time. It was ending. Fresh Prince was getting, so he was getting ready to do Independence Day.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was one of his first major breakthrough movies. And he was just very, very cool.
I think he has a strong spiritual leaning as well. I've read some of his work that
Yes.
he's published.
He definitely has a great philosophy in life, life
very,
philosophy.
very
Yes.
positive, and
Yes.
but like I say, when you feel that genuine the authenticity about
Yes.
someone that's already a famous person or a celebrity,
Yes.
that puts him in a very unique category.
Yes.
He doesn't expect people to, kowtow to him
Right.
at all.
Right.
And even when he was in Hawaii, he'd go play golf. He was just like one of the guys.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah.
that
Very
I'm glad you
relatable.
mentioned
Yeah.
him.
Very little. He was
What
one of the
about
kings.
what about the music side of you? Why don't we talk a little bit about your
Mm-hmm.
orientation to music? And here's before you go into that description of
Yes.
how you became a musician or a vocalist.
Right.
I want to say there's one thing that you're a conundrum.
Hey,
I
watch
think-
your language.
I think
I got witnesses.
I think you might have said that to me once
Yes.
too. However, I'm going to use it against you. I mean, with you today, not against you, but with you. So the reason I say that is, you normally I know that you're in your 40s.
Yes.
I also know that you do character actors. You said
Yes.
that, and they're usually adventure stories.
Yes.
It seems like you've got this wild side, this very action-oriented side
Yes.
of you, and then you go and sing music that's all about, well, I hate to say it, but more traditional. Let's
Yes.
say
Yes.
Frank Sinatra, Tony
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Nat King Cole.
Yes.
All of them. So why? How did you go from?
It's a crazy story. Okay, so I'm in my late, not early 40s, by the way. So that's part of the reason why I'm able to
It's
relate to that
okay.
music.
It's okay.
But also
Remember, you're ageless in timeless, and age is just a
age
number.
and time. Age ain't nothing but a number.
A
You heard it
number.
here first, people.
Exactly.
So
it's all about how you feel and how you
and
think.
the sound guy Tony is waving his head, going, "No, it's not true." He's looking at me, "That's not true. You are
Well,
old."
that's
He said,
because
"You're old, Jordan."
that's because Tony's younger than you
Yeah,
and
that's
me,
right.
and he can
He
say
He has a
that.
license. He has the affordability to do that. That's right.
Right. So we'll get him afterwards, right? We'll show him who's boss.
Right. So he's Tony. Yeah. But it's a funny thing with me and singing. Growing up in Brooklyn, New York, I said that before. Growing up in Brooklyn, New York, my mom, who is Italian heritage, my dad's African American, so I look Puerto Rican.
Lucky you.
Yeah, my mom would always make sure we watched. My sister and I would always watch the shows of the day that were good for her. So that would be like the Dean Martin show, Andy Williams, This Is Tom Jones. We'd watch all of those shows, and my sister and I would watch the Flip Wilson show and things like that, and we wind up seeing things like the Jackson 5 and all those on there. And so,
Right.
but my mother would make sure we always got the Perry Comos and the Dean Martins done. So Dean Martin was one of my favorite singers because he was just so relaxed and calm, and he had a charisma about him that reminded me of my dad, quite frankly. My dad was
Really?
very charismatic and mellow, and Dean had that little twinkle in his eye, and Dean had that flavor to him, and I always connected the two together. And
So you like the Rat Pack?
I love the Rat Pack very much, Sammy Davis and those guys.
Yeah.
And so one day, and I started singing, just playing around singing and stuff, but I would watch Johnny Matthews with my mom on the Tonight Show, and I appreciate he was a singer, but it was just in the peripheral. And one night I was out waiting for my cousin to come downstairs, and we were playing in the summer, and I'll never forget this day, and one of the friends in that building was an older gentleman at the time, maybe in his 40s, and he came down, and I was just like 15. And he came down while I was waiting for her, and he was kind of, tipsy. And he said, "You remind me of somebody." I said, "Who?" He said, "Some singer. I can't put my finger on it." And I said, "It's okay, because I'm light-skinned." I said, "Smokey Robinson?" He said, No. He said, Johnny Mathis. That's who you remind me. Johnny Mathis. Now, I knew he was a singer, and I was at the time liking to learn to sing at the time. So I went home and researched him. Went to the record store. Records in those days, kids. I went to the record store, and I found
Sorry,
Johnny Mathis.
Tony.
Yeah. Sorry, Tony's like, "What's a record?"
Yeah, what's a record?
He had to punch in a dial on Friday. He's looking up now on his phone. What's a record? They had records.
He's Googling.
Yeah,
He's Googling records.
Googling 45s and records. Yeah, way before your time, my friend. They're making a comeback, though. They're coming
Yeah,
back
I
in
hear
vinyl.
that. I hear that. Good thing I saved one.
Yes, me too. I saved
the
all of my
Beatles.
Johnny Mathis records.
Oh,
yeah.
good for you.
So I went to the store and I looked at Johnny Mathis. Now, the first thing that got me was he was an attractive guy for me.
And you liked that.
Anybody that knows Johnny Mathis, and you look at him in his 70s and 50s and 60s, he was a
Right.
gorgeous guy.
Right.
So that immediately hit me in my ego to go, okay, I'm interested. Then I remember my mom used to play that stuff all the time, so I got an album of his. And at that time, I got like Johnny Mathis in the '60s or something. One of his old albums, I got one for cheap. I was a kid, and I played it, and I fell in love with his voice. I fell in love with his voice. He became, at the time, my immediate hero. At the same time, Michael Jackson was my hero because, you know, I loved what he was doing. It was a closer age thing, and I loved what he was doing, his energy and his entertainment. There was none other like that. And so, but Johnny Mathis' voice and his appeal and his look was great.
Well, you liked the fact that you were told you looked
Yes,
like him,
and
of course.
that didn't help. That didn't hurt.
That didn't hurt at all.
So I wound up going. I went. Johnny Mathis was the first concert I ever took by myself. I went all the way to Westchester, New York, Westchester Amphitheater at the time, Westbury Music Fair, and I saw him. Took the train out there one Friday night and saw him perform, and I was in love with him. Funny thing is, you cut to like 15 years later, I'm at a seminar, and a friend of mine, a girlfriend at the time, was talking to a guy who does musical bios for album covers, you know, and he likes to inner cover. So when he's talking about, you know, Johnny Mathis is the best singer, Temptations are the best group out now, he writes that type of bio on the album. He was going to do an interview with Johnny Mathis for a new album Johnny Mathis had out, and my girlfriend at the time, she said, you gotta let him. I asked him to sign it. I had an album. I said, if I bring an album, would you have Johnny sign it? He said, I could do that. But she came back from break and she said, sign it? You got to get him to meet Johnny Mathis. This guy loves Johnny Mathis. So he took me to Johnny Mathis's house.
Whoa.
I drove him because he didn't drive. He didn't drive. The guy didn't drive. He said, if you can drive me to Johnny Mathis's house, I'll tell him that you're my assistant or something. You can get in and come in on the interview. I was like, are you kidding me? So we got there. I got into Johnny Mathis's house at the time up in the hills, and he introduced me, and I got to sit down with Johnny Mathis and hear him talk. I let Tony do the interview. His name was Tony, too. I let Tony do the interview. I let him do the interview, and then when he finished, he let me talk to Johnny Mathis. And
what did he say?
Well, first I get to acknowledge him of how much I cared about that.
Right. Of course, he loves that.
And I'm sitting on this guy's couch in his house. You know, 15 years ago, I was like listening to his records. You know, and I was like, how does that happen?
Right.
You know, as I'm sitting on his couch, getting to acknowledge him, how he's my favorite singer and how he's lasted through the years. And then he gives me a little show business insights about music, about singing, and about performing.
What did he
was telling me about how he picks his songs. I said, how do you pick your songs when you go do a live show? And he was telling me how he picks his song, because when you do an album, he's got like 60-something albums done. So how do you pick 12 songs on a show to do out of 60?
Did he say because of who the target audience would be?
Well, a lot of that is because of who the target audience would be, because he knew the songs that would most likely get the audience, and he was telling me that. Besides his standards, you expect certain songs from him, but he would tell me the other songs they would fill in. He would pick in a certain way, and he would tell me a little anecdotes and jokes. But that was amazing. I took a picture with him, and it still hangs on my wall to this day. I took a picture with him, and that was fantastic. He got this guy.
You still have it?
Yeah, I still have it. Oh. My icon, he got his arm around me, and he's sitting there taking a picture with me by his pool. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
So you know that there are no accidents in life.
Yeah, that was just.
That was supposed to happen.
That was incredible.
So was that an epiphany for you? Obviously, that was, you know what I mean, right? Epiphany meaning an event that you will never forget.
Yes.
It was a life-changing event.
Yes.
So is that what put you on the path?
That put me on the path to wanting to do music, and I just always love performing. My thing with music is that it's like a host. I'm like a host to a party. When I do a live show, I'm a host to a party, and I want everybody to have a good time. You serve your hors d'oeuvres, you serve your dinner, and you have a great time, and everybody comes out, and they might have had a piece of the party they like better. Everybody's experience is different, but everybody says, I had a great time at that party. It was just really a fun party. I can't wait to go back to
I can't wait for
party.
You to do something that you promised me before the show.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know what I'm going to say?
But I'm not going to take my shirt off here in front of everybody. Oh, you're talking about the other thing. I'm sorry.
About music.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Remember what I asked you. Okay, so for the audience's sake. So one time I asked Jordan before today's show, what are his favorite songs? And I said, and I also said, because I'm a girl, I said, what song would you sing to me? Would you dedicate to me, Jordan, if you were going to sing a song that you love? And what was the song?
Unforgettable.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, of course, as a girl, how can I resist that? So Jordan promised me that today he would sing Unforgettable. And there's a second song that I also asked him if he would sing, and that is...
Just the Way You Look Tonight, Sinatra. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, wait, isn't Unforgettable Sinatra?
Unforgettable's Nat King Cole.
Oh,
Was
Nat
made
King Cole.
I mean,
That's
everybody's done all these songs. These
Yeah,
songs
yeah.
are part of the Great American Songbook. So everybody from Dean Martin to
Oh, yeah,
Engelbert
yeah.
Humperdinck has done them.
Okay,
but
tell us
famous.
what the Great American Songbook, because that you mentioned that earlier, and
Yeah.
I wasn't familiar with that.
Great American Songbook are basically the standard songs of that originated probably starting in the 1930s up to like the 1960s. There were songs that were written by songwriters and then recorded by many other musicians and talents. So any song that you can think of by Frank Sinatra has probably also been done by Tom Jones, also been done by Perry Como, also been done by Johnny Mathis, also been done by Harry Connick Jr. You know, those type of songs
So
that
the Rat
everybody
Pack,
knows.
they interchanged their songs. They didn't care.
Yeah,
who
Oh.
owned what or whatever.
Yeah,
Because they were all good buddies.
They were all
right?
good buddies. None of them owned those songs. Well, Frank
Yeah.
Sinatra might have had some writing credits on some, but
Yeah.
but none of them really owned those songs. They were just songs that were open to the public domain to sing, or popular songs of that day, which became standards because everybody sings them. If you sing a song, if you come out with a song and it only lasts for that year and you never hear it again, it's not a standard. A standard is a song that it came out in one era or 1 year and it's lasted. For whatever reason, it took hold of the imagination of the American public or the world, and it's always a song that is evergreen. You hear it again 10 years later,
right,
again,
and it's
again.
still popular.
And different artists pick it up and redo it and that
So,
type of thing.
so because we're going to go to your performance in just a moment, if you're okay with that. If you're still giving me your word that
I'm
you want to
giving you
do.
a word. You're my
Okay,
word,
good.
yeah. But shirt on.
Shirt on, please, and
She said, please.
and sport jacket, and we want you to look absolutely professional. However, what is the type of audience that is going to want to have you perform, given that you are doing mostly the Great American, or you are doing all the Great American songs?
Yeah.
Is there a particular type of audience that is always requesting your performances?
Yeah, and also in the Great American Songbook, I include Motown because Motown
Yeah,
had a great
okay.
influence on American music, and I do some Motown songs because it was great. It definitely impacted my life, and that's another type of music you hear that just gets recorded by other entertainers, singers, and goes on for years.
So the
and years.
Supremes and-
the Temptations,
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
Those
Yeah,
are all-
Marvin Gaye.
Why didn't we
Yeah.
have one of those today?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good
I think you're
question.
going to have to come back.
Oh my goodness, that's
do
a
you
good.
think you
that's
can
a good
handle
point.
that?
I can handle coming back. Yes.
All right, okay.
Yeah, and so the demographic, answer your question. The demographic is usually obviously people that were born in those eras, the people that are over 50, 60 years old of age, 70 years of age, because that's visceral to them. They've lived that music, or they saw those entertainers, or they actually had crushes on those entertainers, so they know that music very well. And then it gets the resurgence from the Michael Bublés and the Harry Connick Jr.'s. It gets a resurgence if it's a popular song that's also still happening now. You get a younger audience. So the demographic of audience can be anybody from 16 on up to 120,
Wow.
anywhere in that range that
Wow.
has a liking for that music.
A 16-year-old. Well,
A
of course, you
16-year-old.
were a 16-year-old.
Yeah, at one
and-
point, yes, we all were, I think.
But I
I'm
mean,
not
when
too
you-
sure about you. You
but-
might have started out 22. I don't know.
You think so? I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
ageless and timeless.
Your ageless and timeless. That's right.
No, I started out at 10 and I never
you never
I
grew
just
up.
got taller.
Yeah, you never grew up. I heard that.
I still have the mental capacity of a 10-year-old.
10-year-old in your head. That's right.
But, you know, I didn't tell you the story, but when I was in Aspen developing real estate, I had B.B. King. I had a television show for 6 years.
Wow.
And it was on the cable network there. And I had B.B. King come on with Lucille.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was the most amazing time. And
Yeah.
it was all live. So,
Yes.
and he's a big flirt. He was a big
Yes,
flirt.
Yes.
So he asked me out on the show.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and I had to defend myself, you
Yes.
know, because he knew he was just going to do that. I
Right.
mean, that was the type. He just had a twinkle,
Yes.
mischievous twinkle in his
Yes.
eye, and but then he played Lucille. He played
Oh, my
on the
goodness,
show. So
yes.
it's kind of like maybe this is B.B. King incarnated. when
Oh
we're
my
having-
goodness! Are you
so-
trying to say I'm going to ask you out? Is that what you're saying?
Oh no, I wasn't.
Yeah,
I wasn't. I wasn't. Well, you did tell me earlier that I was a queen,
You are a queen.
and
yes.
that I said, "Why are you not kneeling down?"
That's right. See, there we
All
go.
right, time for you to give us a little demo, because maybe people who are listening and viewing us today may want to experience you with a performance. And I know that we're going to talk about it after your little teaser.
Right.
What you would like to offer, because all of our guests have been so generous, and they offer some incentive to friends and family. We call it. So, you're on.
Okay,
And
I'm on.
now you
Oh
need-
wait, you
now
know
you
what?
need-
I one caveat. I'll sing the song if during the music interlude we'll be seen by some people, right? Some people. You dance with me.
Ah! No, how
I
can
got
you-
her, Tony.
how
You have
can
to
you
dance
sing
with
and
me.
dance at the same
There's
time?
going to be a musical interlude during the
You-
song, and I'm going
you
to
walk
pull you
and
up to
chew
dance
gum?
with me. I'm walking, chew gum at the same time.
You're on.
All right, you heard it here,
You
ladies.
just have to
and
let me
gentlemen.
know when.
She's going to do it.
Okay,
All right.
here we go.
That's great. I'm going to put my earphones on.
And I am all ears.
Unforgettable. That's what you are. Unforgettable. Though near or far. Like a song of love that clings to me. How the thought of you does things to me never before has someone been more unforgettable in every way. And forevermore, that's how you'll stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too.
Is it okay if I cry? Are we on camera? Oh no! You make me. Okay, well, how do I do this with my mouth?
Now that is a queen.
Let me go down on one knee.
Michelle, ladies and gentlemen, look at that. Go down on one knee.
You know I'm teasing you. Wow, that was so special, Jordan. So,
Thank you so much.
do we get one more?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We're,
Can we give a big
we're
hand
into
for-
it. Should I give you a
Can we give a big
yay?
hand for Michelle? That was a little taste.
No,
of
not for me, for
unforgettable.
you.
No, you danced. Give it a little taste.
I don't know if Tony could catch us on dancing, but just for the
He got a little
just
bit
for
of
the
it.
audience to
You
know
got a little
that
taste.
yeah, just so you know that
Yes.
he was dancing like my grandfather.
Oh, thank you very much.
I mean,
Oh, my goodness.
And this is why I
Thank you.
asked the question earlier: was how do you get to be a character actor with adventure
Thank you.
roles, and then be this like my grandfather dancing with me like he would,
Yes.
and singing the most beautiful classical songs. Well,
I am her
anyway.
grandfather, by the way. We didn't disclose that earlier.
You are?
No, I'm just teasing.
No, you never told me that.
Dancing like your grandfather.
But the conundrum that I mentioned is or let's call it the dichotomy.
Yes.
So you're basically a Renaissance man.
Yes, that music is timeless. I love that. I love that type of
Timeless.
music. Yes,
Thank
it
you
is.
for the plug.
Yes, that's right.
Say it
right.
again.
As you know, timeless.
Ageless
That music
and
is
timeless.
ageless and time. That music is ageless and timeless. It really is. It's
Yeah.
just the music that anybody that enjoys quality music will just always pick up on, and it just will live on.
So put
beyond
those
us.
earphones back on.
Oh, my goodness,
You got
what am
one
I
more
doing
song you promised us, Just the Way You Look
okay,
Tonight.
yes, just the way we look tonight. A little Sinatra tune. Okay.
Okay, is that all right?
Yeah, that's great. Someday, when I'm awfully low, when this world is cold, the way you look tonight. Oh, but you're lovely with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you just the way you look tonight. That's good, Tony. Right there. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I will have to say
A little
that,
taste of it. Thank you so much.
It really touches. It really is touching music, and you know, why are they classics? Why are they timeless? And you know, can't even a 16-year-old, as you said,
Yes.
would be attracted to
Yes.
that kind. And it's
Yeah.
the lyrics too. You can actually understand.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Unlike a lot of the music
that's
today.
a good part of it. A good part
when
of
I
it
can
is the
relate to the lyrics,
Yeah.
I say, "Oh, I know what he means." Well,
A good part of
I'm
that.
afraid we're going to run out of time, so
Okay.
I want to be sure that we talk about what our viewers could expect if they contacted you. So, could you tell us about your website, your email, how they can reach you? I know you're very approachable. You don't have any big agents that are
Right.
blocking the
Right.
people from. However, you know what I would see. Well, I don't know if any movie producers are watching today, but if they are, they can certainly call you to cast you in their next
Oh,
movie.
thank
but,
you so much.
But I was really looking towards the music. So what
Yes.
what would you offer if someone wanted to book you for one of their events?
Oh, okay. Well, two things. You can find out more information on me on my website, which is www.jordanpreston.net. You can
Net.
find out on that. And
Make
my
sure
email,
make sure you got net.
yes, net, not com, .net.
Okay.
And and my email address and phone number and things like that are on that too. Phone number is 323-308-7422 for
Oh,
contact.
say it again. Say it again.
323-308-7422 is contact information.
Okay.
Contact number. And I'll tell you what, for Ageless and Timeless viewers and listeners, anybody that calls, if you're a retirement center, you're giving a party or something, and you say that you mentioned that you heard me on Ageless and Timeless and saw this interview, I'll give you, let's say, what's a good thing?
25%?
25%. Oh my goodness, she wants the whole store. All right, 20. I'll give you 25. It's a deal. 25%
You can
off.
tell you're from Brooklyn.
25%. That's right. I want to get my
But
price.
such
right.
a deal for you.
Yes, that's right. So, okay, you got it. 25% off of any listing price of any type of performance that we do. We agree upon. You get a 25% discount if you say you saw or heard me on this interview with Michelle and Ageless and Timeless.
Okay, so
There
if
we
they
go.
just use the code Ageless or
Ageless.
or Michelle Hughes,
Michelle
you'll
Hughes or
you'll
Ageless.
recognize that.
There you go. I'll
Do you think
recognize
you
Michelle
remember?
Hughes, yes, or Ageless, yes, that's
and,
right.
and you're saying for a one time, right?
One time, first
Yeah.
offer deal. So yes,
Yeah, but
you
if they
want a
then
repeat
refer
customer-
friends and
Yes.
call you and they say, "Hey, I heard about you. I saw your performance. I want to book you."
Right.
What happens? Those people, as long as they say Ageless, they're going to get the.
Oh my
I'm-
goodness! Oh my
Well, you know what? I
goodness.
didn't grow
I'll
up
be
in New
singing
York.
for free forever. Here we go. Yes. All right. So let's extend the deal. I feel like I'm on QVC. All right. Let's extend that deal. we'll give anybody. Let's say if you refer somebody and that referral calls and wants to also have a performance, we will extend that 25% discount to your friend too, as long as they say they got referred by somebody, and I know that person was originally came from watching or hearing me on Ageless and Timeless.
Right, and there will be people that will do that, I'm sure, because
Absolutely.
everybody knows somebody. When they get excited, they want to share with their friends, and so I just wanted to be clear that but it is a one-time for the first person, the time that first person contact.
Right, and if you like the Great American Songbook, Harry Connick Jr., Michael Bublé, or anything Motown type music like that, songs from the '60s and '50s and stuff, Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis.
Did they get to tell you what they would like?
We can work together and formulate a song list. If they usually people have one or two songs they find their favorite they want to put in a show.
And you're okay with that. And what if they give you a song you have never done? It
depends on how difficult it is and how quickly. If they're doing a show, they want me to do a show next week, and they give me an aria from somewhere that they found that their grandmother knew in Lithuania. I don't know that I can do that in 1 week. Right. I don't know if I can do that in 3 days, but it depends on a what it is on a case by case
I
basis.
understand.
But
as long as it's reasonable.
Yeah, if it's a popular song that I've never done before, but it's easy to find and learn something.
And you go pretty much all over LA.
I travel all over the country.
The country?
Yeah, I travel all over the country.
No way.
Songs, all the way. Travel all over.
Like, so you'd go back to New York?
I go everywhere. If the price is right, I go everywhere. Well, you know that. I'm a New Yorker. If you're paying me, then I'll go back, so yeah.
Well, Jordan, I have to say, you are a gem.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy that you joined us today. And this is the first time, by the way, I've had anyone in the studio.
Oh, my goodness.
So this has been a good trial. How did we do, Tony?
My goodness.
Yeah, Tony?
All right. Tony put a finger up. I didn't get a chance to see which one it was. I'm just looking at my peripheral, but I know he put a finger up. I'm going to take it was a thumbs up.
Well, I think if he's a Hawaiian...
I'm going to take it he gave me a thumbs up and not this.
In Hawaii, this is a shaka.
Yeah, he might have been Hawaiian from what I saw. They use two fingers in Hawaii, Tony. That's why I'll let you know that. All right. But yeah, thank you, Tony. Tony's been great.
So just in closing, we've had a lot of fun today.
Yes.
And Jordan is a really precious human being.
Thank you.
And I think if you did want to have him perform at one of your shows, one of your events, you wouldn't be disappointed. In fact, one day I was walking with Jordan through an art show in Beverly Hills.
Oh, yeah.
And some woman came up and gave him a huge hug and said, "Oh my God, didn't want to tell you in front of your friend, but anyway, you are my mother's favorite."
Yeah.
Her mother has Alzheimer's, and
that's why I'm her favorite.
She forgets about you.
That's right.
No, that's not fair. But anyway, so I know that when he performs, he puts everything, 150% into what he does. That's who he is. So I hope that you've enjoyed hearing a little teaser from him, but also learning a lot about a human being who is just like all of us, facing challenges, facing struggles, but still comes out a winner because he has a positive mental attitude and he's a doer with never gives up. So thank you very much. This is Michelle Hughes from Ageless and Timeless. I hope that you'll tell your friends and family about our show and that you'll subscribe to us here. And pretty soon I'm going to have a website that you'll be able to get to. So just stay tuned. I think that may be happening next week. So I look forward to broadening the awareness and being your host. Thank you very much. Welcome back. This is Michelle Hughes at Ageless and Timeless. We today are very, very fortunate to have a guest who is in the arts. And so far, we haven't done any shows that are on the right brain side with artistic people. So I invited Jordan Preston to join us. And just a little background about Jordan. He is both a musician, well, he's actually three things: a musician, an actor at SAG-AFTRA, and also a sculptor. And as an actor, he's played mostly the Marvel type action movies, and he'll tell you a little bit more about that. As a musician, he seems to be kind of interestingly more attuned to the more traditional music, such as Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, Tony Bennett. And we have a little surprise today because he said, with my request, of course, that he would sing a couple of songs. So be prepared. But here's a little clip on Jordan to introduce him.
Kick up your next event with the retro-style music of Jordan Preston and his band.
Someday, when I'm awfully low.
As a Retro 1260 listener, you'll love the high energy and smooth stylings of this popular entertainer who's been enchanting audiences and gaining quite a buzz with his performances at special events and private parties. From Sinatra to Santana and Mathis to Motown, Jordan Preston and his band perform your favorite songs from your favorite decades, with options for every budget and event. Entertain your guests with Jordan and his Vegas-style 12-piece big band, his swingin' 5-piece band, the intimate and jazzy 4-piece combo, or Jordan solo with backing orchestrations. Jordan Preston, your era, your music, your memories.
Welcome, Jordan, to Ageless and Timeless. I think that you have a very interesting background that I have listened to, had a little bit of a teaser with you earlier today. So if you would take over and tell us how you got to where you are today on this wonderful journey of your life.
Hey, Michelle. It's good to be here today. Thank you so much for having me. Basically, okay, I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. And I can hear the audience saying yay right now. I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
I know Larry King would, because that's where he came from.
Brooklyn, a lot of people
right.
from Brooklyn, New York. Basically, I always wanted to sing and act since I was a child. And what got me into music was a very funny thing. I loved singing as a child and playing around with music. And acting was always my escape, my passion as a kid, because little chubby kid growing up, and so I didn't have I was popular because I was funny, but I didn't have a lot of deep friends, and certainly not a lot of girlfriends as a young teen growing up. And so movies were escapism for me, and they were fun for me. So that's how I learned to basically start getting those chops going of acting, because I'd do skits with myself and all that type of thing, and I'd sing, and I loved the immediate response, immediate reaction that people would give doing that. My mom, the first audience was
well,
my
of
mom.
course, your mom.
Yeah.
She must have been your biggest fan.
Mother, right? Just to get me out the room. See, that was great. Go ahead, just get out of here.
Just get out of here.
Just leave. but that's what got. That was the germination of me starting to see that I liked the arts, singing. And I also was able to draw well. So when it became a time for me to go to school, and it got to college time, well, we weren't a wealthy family, so I got a tuition, a grant to go to FIT, Fashion Institute in New York.
Which is a very good school.
Yeah, it's a very prestigious, good school.
Really?
And I went to Brooklyn Tech, which is another prestigious, good high school in New York. And I did well in drawing and arts, and my mom and dad sat me down and said, well, we don't have money to send you to college, so if they're offering you a grant and scholarship to go to FIT, you're gonna have to, if you want to go to college at all, you have to go there. So I went there, and I did that, and enjoyed it. Got a degree in textile designing and things like that. But I always loved singing and acting, and that still stuck with me.
So where did you get your first break?
My first break came from when I was in New York. I was going to college, and also running back and forth to Herbert Berghoff School in the Village. And FIT was actually up on 28th Street, so I'd go back and forth and walk back and forth in between classes and go take a class at Herbert Berghoff, go back up and take my evening classes, the evening session of my classes in FIT. And I went to an audition, and a gentleman by the name of Eric Bogosian. Eric Bogosian is a very accomplished actor. He's done a lot of things. He did a movie called Talk Radio. He was in Under Siege with Steven Seagal. He was the villain. And he gave me my first break because he cast me in one of his plays. He's a great playwright, too, and he cast me in one of his plays off-Broadway.